The Epoch Times, 7th of August 2023. Increased legal threats against people who report on CCP interference. Legal threats have recently been directed toward journalists covering the Chinese Communist Party's (CCP) foreign influence in Canada. Legislator Victor O. of California suggested establishing a national Chinese foundation in June to raise funds for legal actions against those unreasonable journalists, news outlets, and politicians who slander and defame Chinese people. More recently, Joe Lee, a regional councillor for Markham, Ontario, repeated the same warning directed at reporters and media organizations that he claims are smearing Chinese people. On July 1, he spoke at a celebration marking the 156th anniversary of Canada Day. Speaking at the Confederation of Toronto Chinese Canadian Organizations (CTCCO) event, he was one of the honorary guests. Senator Victor O. has stated that we need to lay the groundwork. All right? For what reason? These reporters will continue to accuse Chinese politicians for eternity if we don't donate this money. Michael Chan, the deputy mayor of Markham, might be their target today. Mr. Lee stated in Mandarin in a video that media news uploaded to YouTube tomorrow that it will be me. I hope we Chinese, no matter what party we belong to, band together and donate money so that when they dare to defame us in the future, we can fight back against them. It was audible that the audience was cheering yes in Mandarin and responding with applause. Mr. I was contacted by the Epoch Times for comment, but no response was received. The Epoch Times has asked Mr. O for comment several times but has not replied. The CCP uses lawsuits as a weapon against those who oppose Chinese aggression and menace. In recent years, there have been numerous such instances of litigation and lawsuit threats related to revelations about politicians' purported ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Michael Chan, the deputy mayor of Markham and an MPP from Ontario at the time, filed a defamation lawsuit against the Globe and Mail in August 2015 in response to articles claiming that Cheese had expressed concerns about his unusually close ties to Chinese officials. In his demand for $4.55 million in damages, Mr. Chan identified Globe publisher Philip Crawley, editor-in-chief David Wamsley, and reporter Craig Hoffman. In addition, he demanded $50,000 in damages from political analyst Charles Burton, who claimed in a Globe article that Mr. Chan was under the undue influence of the government of China. Mr. Chan raised his demand from $4.55 million to $4.85 million in March 2016. According to Global News, Mr. Chan filed a $10 million lawsuit in May against Cheese and other personnel who he claims leaked sensitive material to damage his reputation. According to reports, he is also suing the Attorney General of Canada, the Crown, and two journalists who published articles on him using the information released. Beijing's national security law, which was passed in June 2020 and was utilized to put down the large-scale pro-democracy demonstrations in Hong Kong, has been vigorously defended by Mr. Chan. In addition, he supported the controversial Confucius Institutes. This CCP international cultural initiative has been criticized for violating academic freedom, participating in military and economic espionage, and monitoring Chinese students overseas. The program was installed in Toronto schools. Investigative journalist Sam Cooper's article, which first appeared in Global News in April 2020, revealed how Beijing's United Front Work Department organized Chinese Canadians to gather personal protective equipment, PPE, for China in the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Maple Leaf Santa Racism Actions Association, MLARA, was founded in May 2020 by a group of people in British Columbia who claimed that Mr. Cooper and Global News article was racist against the Chinese community and sought to raise money for legal action against them. After learning that Liberal MP Joyce Murray, the Minister of Digital Government at the time, had a post on WeChat promoting the group's fundraising campaign for the legal case. Legislator later backed out of its original plan to sue. One famous Chinese social media site is WeChat. The Canadian Alliance of Chinese Associations, CACA, a federation including more than 130 Chinese Canadian groups, called a news conference in October 2020 and demanded an apology from Mr. Cooper for his slanderous reports on the Chinese community, threatening legal action if he did not. As yet, CACA has not fulfilled its threat. CACA has a history of adopting pro-Beijing positions. For example, it has praised the CCP for its military actions against Canada and its Western allies during the Korean War. It has supported Beijing's military threat to seize control of Taiwan. Honorary chair of CACA Wang Dianqi has also bragged about his regular donations to the Chinese military. MP Han Dong filed a libel lawsuit against Global News in April of this year, requesting $15 million in damages after Global revealed several articles claiming he was part of a network of foreign influence backed by Beijing. Mr. Dong left the Liberal caucus after Global News revealed in March that he had spoken with the General Consul of China in Toronto and had proposed in February 2021 that Beijing delay the release of Mr. Kovrig and Mr. Spaver. Mr. Dong is an independent MP in his Toronto riding of Don Valley North. At the time, the Chinese authorities held the two Canadians for over 2 years. In a February report, Global News also quoted anonymous national security officials who claimed that Mr. Dong was a witting affiliate of China's election meddling networks in Canada and that he was one of at least 11 candidates who benefited from Beijing's support in the 2019 federal election. Rejecting the accusations is Mr. Dong. In response to a March 10 article that referenced two Privy Council office intelligence reports and multiple anonymous sources with knowledge of the investigation into Beijing's covert efforts during the 2019 federal election, another politician, Ontario MPP Vincent Kay, filed a defamation lawsuit against Global News and Mr. Cooper in April. According to the story, Mr. Kay served as a financial intermediary to enable the Chinese consulate in Toronto to provide money to the candidates Beijing allegedly influenced. That is not Mr. Kay's allegation. The Epoch Times has contacted Mr. Chan, Mr. Dong, and Mr. Kay for comment. None have responded. The Chinese Communist Party's hidden hand. The Canadian publication Hidden Hand, exposing how the Chinese Communist Party is reshaping the world, was suspended in June 2020 due to a libel complaint launched by a UK organisation against the book's authors and publisher. Co-authored by German Marika Olberg and Australian Clive Hamilton, Hidden Hand was first released in Australia before being sued when the book's publisher attempted to take it global. Richard Yuan, a well-known member of the Chinese-Australian community with close ties to Beijing, launched libel actions against various English-language Australian media outlets in 2020, alleging that their articles defamingly described Chinese Canadians' extensive PPE exports to China. 3 media outlets, 7 News, Daily Mail Australia, and SBS, apologised to Mr. Yuan shortly after and reached an out-of-court settlement. The accomplishments of Mr. Yuan inspired several pro-Beijing organizations abroad. According to a report by Hui Media News on January 19, 2023, he was invited to Canada to discuss his experience of retaliating against Australian media with Chinese groups. The Chinese-language article reported that Mr. Yuan took up legal weapons and took legal action against these media correspondingly. Mr. Yuan met face-to-face with Mr. O and Mr. K during his journey to Toronto.